So the fear that a lot of us had about Star Wars Battlefront has unfortunately come true, and the game now has the most expensive season pass we've seen to date. So this is a hard one for me because I've gotten over my first issues and concerns about Star Wars Battlefront and now have been nothing but excited for the game, and I don't really want to have too many reasons to be so down on the game and what's going to be happening with that game once it releases. I really just want to be excited for it. The beta just ended today, and I think the beta was really, really awesome. I was a little bit concerned when I first started the beta because of how thin the whole experience seemed to be, but I had to remind myself it's just a beta. The menus for the beta show you all of the different options available that you can't do in the beta that you know are going to be available in the final game, as far as locations, game modes, weapons, unlockables, all these different things. There's obviously a lot to be excited for in the final game, and that's really cool. And, you know, at first when the game came out, I was really worried about some of the things that EA revealed, and because it's EA, I was nervous just like a lot of you guys. But, you know, the more they started to show off and talk about the game, the better I felt. And then with the beta, once I got over my first couple of hours where I wasn't quite sure if it was going to be awesome, I actually fell in love with it. So now, gameplay-wise, I am so pumped for that game, for the final game. And now here we get this information right at the tail end of the beta being available to players. And EA tells us that it is going to have Star Wars Battlefront 3 will have a $50 season pass. And man, that sucks. That's why this is hard for me, is I don't want to have to be down on the game. I just want to be excited for it. But I do have to be down on this, even though there's like some ups and downs, of course, with something like this. But they have confirmed there is a season pass. A lot of us were worried, oh God, Battlefront's going to be this DLC microtransaction machine. And, you know, EA tried to do a lot of damage control when the first information about Battlefront came out of Star Wars Celebration over the summer, and say, hey, don't worry about this, don't worry about that, it's going to be okay, it's not what you think, it's going to be this and that. And their damage control, I mean, for the most part, worked. It's part of the reason why I kind of got back on board, and I still am on board, even through this, of course, but it's why a lot of us got back on board, and we kind of believed them, and then they dropped this $50 season pass. Keep in mind, previously, earlier this year, Batman Arkham Knight's $40 season pass was an outrage, and that was the most expensive season pass we had seen at the time. And now here we go. We have one that's even $10 more than that. You know, but we all know why there's a $50 season pass. It's because it's freaking Star Wars, and a lot of people are going to pay it. And, you know, I'm a Star Wars sucker, so I need to kind of find out more to know what I'm going to do with the DLC side of Battlefront, but you know, Star Wars fans will pay it, and it's both a great and an unfortunate thing. This is an element where it's an unfortunate thing, and I think that they're going to be taking advantage of people. But this is the gaming age that we live in nowadays, and sadly, we have to just be more used to it and expect it. And you know, what should be a one-time purchase $60 game is becoming a $100 purchase every time a new game comes out for two of the three 8th generation machines. It hasn't really happened with any of Nintendo's stuff for the Wii U, with the exception of oh my gosh, Super Smash Brothers, you know, and there's a lot of that stuff that you don't need. So anyway, I just want to go over the couple of things on IGN's page about the story about this, what they kind of say. The season pass will include 4 expansion packs, so okay, that's kind of a lot of content. Early access to the expansion by 2 weeks, which is kind of cool, I guess. An exclusive shoot first emote, which, okay, whatever. And the promise of more details in the coming weeks, blah, blah, blah. Now, it details one of the new modes that's going to be a part of the expansion, and this, I think, is interesting. I'm going to read this whole thing. Hero Hunt begins with a player with... Oh, sorry, okay, they used the same word twice. So Hero Hunt begins with a player beginning as either a hero or a villain, depending on what planet is being played, which actually sounds kind of neat. And 7 other players will spawn as troops from the opposing sides. A tense 7-versus-1 hunt then begins. The player who kills the hero or the villain then takes their place as Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett, or whichever iconic character is up based on the predetermined order. So it's what it reminds me of, based on that description, is the game Evolve. It's like that whole kind of same concept where you're playing as one thing that's important to the game or the level that you're at, and then everyone else is just fighting you as that one thing. The difference with this is that you're kind of trading off, and the person that kills the thing, the target creature or target player, actually then becomes that target player. So it's like Evolve meets Tag, sort of, is what it is, only in the Star Wars universe. And so I don't really think that... I mean, I played Evolve. Some of you guys know that, and I actually I decided to give it a shot because I was like, maybe it's going to be fun, and it really disappointed me. I did not like it. I returned it. I didn't trade it in. I returned it. So I have to say that kind of game mode, the whole 4 versus 1 or 7 versus 1, it's not as cool as I think it was going to be. It couldn't even sustain a whole game in Evolve, in my opinion. But as a mode for one game, it might be okay. The fact that it's in Star Wars, okay, that's kind of neat. The only thing I like about it is that if you pick a location, if the hero or villain character you're going to be playing as is in relation to that location. So if you go to Dagobah, then you can play as either Yoda or Luke. Or if you're on Hoth, you could play as Luke, Han, Solo. Vader, he's only there at the end of the Hoth scene on Empire Strikes Back. He's not really there during the battle, but that's enough of a reason to throw him in there. Honestly, in the Hoth level on the beta, Vader is there, so I guess they're totally fine doing that. So like that's cool. If you're on Tatooine, you could play as Luke, the older Obi-Wan, obviously, who would be in this game, or Boba Fett. Boba Fett's there. Jabba the Hutt. It'd be amazing. Oh my god, if you could actually be Jabba the Hutt and just sloth your fat ass around, that'd be so fantastic. But yeah, so I just think that idea is actually really is a neat idea, because what I want to see more of out of Star Wars Battlefront is what made the first two Battlefront games great, and it is the heroes and the villains. That's what's huge, and that's what's sort of been making me worried about Battlefront a little bit, is that they haven't been focusing enough on that aspect. In those first two games, and of course the first two games I think were better because they incorporated both the original and the prequel trilogy, so you had tons of locations and tons of characters to pull from and all this different shit. You could have like Darth Maul on Tatooine or whatever if you want. It was really, really cool. And those two games I think both came out, were they before Revenge of the Sith? Or were they? So I can't remember if Revenge of the Sith characters were in there or not. I don't know. Anyway, that was really cool. And so, going back to this whole mode, like I said, I don't really think the mode sounds that exciting, but I like that it's going to be taking advantage of the locations you're going to be in and the characters that you can be from the movies. But we don't really know anything else other than there's just 4 expansion packs, and each expansion pack is probably going to have a new mode like this. Maybe a couple new characters, probably some stupid things like weapons and skins and emotes, like the shoot first emote. I have no idea why emotes are becoming a thing in the DLC and microtransaction world. What in the entire hell is happening to gaming? Who gives a shit about that? But whatever. I just want to know what each expansion pack costs. So here's my whole, I'll just kind of get down in summary here. My whole thing with this is, as a huge massive Star Wars fan, and as somebody who can't wait for Star Wars Battlefront to release and just be awesome, there is an element of I could still be okay with this if the content is good. Because when it comes to DLC, and especially a season pass that's so ridiculously, outrageously priced like this one, is it definitely can't feel like it's mandatory to the experience. The original $60 release, and I have to stand by this premise, as much as I just want to slap EA across the face for having a $50 fucking season pass. I've said this before with other games, and I need to stand by it now. If you release the $60 game that comes out on launch day, and that really is complete and worth its $60 value and then some, just like I've said with a lot of Nintendo games like Mario Kart and Smash Brothers that have DLC as well, if you make it good on release day, technically, there's really no reason to fault other additional content that is literally only supplementary. That is an okay thing. I have to stick to that principle that I've always said, and that has to hold true for Battlefront. Now, if the Battlefront that releases on day one really feels incomplete and doesn't have enough content and doesn't feel worth $60, then there's a whole different shitstorm happening with an incomplete $60 game on day one and then a $50 fucking season pass after that. But it all remains to be seen. So I'm going to err on the side of positivity and just be the Star Wars fan I am. I'm going to pick up Battlefront. I'm actually getting it for free with my Darth Vader PS4 that I'm picking up in next month. And see how the game feels from there. And then if it feels great, and if the information they release about the season pass makes me excited, then awesome. So that's kind of the two sides and where I fall in the whole thing. It's either a good value because the original release is totally complete and this stuff isn't necessary to complete it, or it's going to be a shitstorm of a scam from EA and there's going to be, hell to pay after that. So I really want to find out what these other expansions are. I got to tell you, one last thing, and I've said this a couple times about Battlefront as well. Here's what would make me massively excited for the season pass or for any of the expansion packs, and it's where EA will definitely get some extra money for me, is if, and I know that this is going to be the case, and they're just not telling us till after Episode 7 comes out, but if there is prequel content in these expansion packs or the season pass or any of this DLC, and what I really think they should do is have either one of the expansion packs or several of these entire expansion packs be solely prequel content. Because I want a lot of prequel content. I want it because A, I love the prequels just as much as the originals, and B, because as I was just saying, the original 2 Battlefront games were built on the premise of the entire Star Wars film universe just it coexisted in this one giant game where anything goes. And that was a lot of fun. Like, you didn't have to make it canon and all this stuff like they're trying to do with Battlefront 3, which actually I think is kind of stupid, but whatever. I think that if they can release this prequel content and it's like you all of a sudden you can go from Hoth or Tatooine or Sullust or Jakku, and then you can go to Mustafar or Naboo or Utapau or Kamino or Geonosis and play as Boba Fett in one level, and then play as Count Dooku in another level, or Anakin Skywalker in one level and Darth Vader in another. You know, like you can have 2 versions of that. Give us Padme from Attack of the Clones. Like the thing is, like, I know a lot of people get down on the prequels, which is a shame, but I totally get it, and that's fine. But what you have to admit about the prequels is there's way more content and lore to pull from. So more characters, more weapons, more story, more locations, more everything. And I think that adding that, even if it's just one expansion pack that has a couple of levels and adds characters and weapons from the prequels into this game, holy shit, that will like double the value of Battlefront to me. I'm totally okay with the original release being all focused on the kind of like events between the original and the new trilogy. I mean, it's really kind of it's building off of the hype for the sequel trilogy that's coming out soon, starting with Episode 7. So the prequels took place so long ago that I mean, there is a lot of it that's going to be relevant to the new trilogy, but immediately not much, not so much. It's really mostly focused on the original feel, which is great, and that's why I'm excited for it. I can't wait for that. But when it comes to DLC and expansion, it's like, dude, throw that shit in there. Give us some prequel stuff. You give me prequel stuff, I will give you my money. I want prequel characters and locations in this new Battlefront game. And I know they're doing it. I know they are. Even if it's not in this, it would be like in a 5th expansion pack outside of this season pass for $50 that includes Forza expansion packs. Like they know they're doing it, and they mentioned when they first mentioned, well, we're not going to have prequel content, but we're considering options down the road. It's like, duh, they're just not ready to talk about that. So I think they want to get over the hype of Episode 7, releasing and everyone's seeing it, and it ties into this game very nicely. And then the DLC is going to start to come, and they're going to talk about prequel stuff. So for Battlefront specifically, I think prequel games will probably get made too, or Clone Wars era stuff, which is really exciting. I want to explore all eras. And so anyway, that was kind of long-winded, but that's something that I hope happens in this season pass or one of the expansion packs or something like that. And I think it's going to come at some point. But regardless, here we are. We're sitting on the cusp of a $50 season pass for one of the biggest games of the year, and we know people are going to buy it. And yes, I think it would be nice if people didn't buy it and tried to send the right message to EA, but at the same time, if it's great content and if the original release is still a good value at $60 and you would never be missing out if you never spent another penny, then it won't make me mad. And I'm just going to evaluate each individual expansion pack and see if it's worth it to me or not. And I have no problem not buying this stuff, and I feel like you should too. If you want Battlefront, but you're mad at the season pass, let's make sure that the original Battlefront is still worth its price, and then you have no reason to be mad, and just pick up the regular Battlefront and support it, and no one's telling you have to spend more money. No one has to buy this extra $50 product. So I don't know. I think that's it. I think I ran out of ideas to talk about. I get passionate about Star Wars, so I could kind of go for a really long time. But I don't know. Those are my thoughts there. It's a pretty controversial deal. I'm pissed that EA is doing it this way. This is a really bad sign of the times in gaming. But when it comes to Battlefront, I'm just hoping that the original release is awesome and that the right content is in the expansion packs. And then I may pick up some of this DLC just myself personally because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And if that bothers you, then I don't care. That's how I feel. And I love what I love, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And you should do the same. So with that, I'll call it. That's kind of my thoughts there. What do you guys think? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of controversy, a lot of hate for EA, deservedly so for this. Share your guys' thoughts and feelings. The DLC conversation is a very heated, volatile one, understandably, so I do want to hear what you guys have to say. Thanks for tuning in. This is Rob of Rule 2 Review, and I will catch you guys next time on another video. Oh yeah, and may the Force be with you always.